Overthinking is not a personality trait, it's a mental habit, and all habits can be replaced. This one realization can change everything, because the moment you stop identifying with overthinking as just who you are, you start taking back the power to change it. See, most people wear overthinking like a badge. They say things like, I'm just a deep thinker, or I can't help it, I always overanalyze. But they don't realize that this self-definition becomes a prison. The longer you say it, the more you believe it, and the more you repeat the behavior unconsciously. But let's get this straight, overthinking is not part of your DNA. It's not something you were born with. You weren't overthinking what toy to pick when you were 4 years old. You weren't second guessing your drawing when you were 5. That came later. It was learned. And if it was learned, it can be unlearned. If it was installed, it can be uninstalled. Overthinking is a response pattern. It's your mind's attempt to protect you, to delay discomfort, to prevent mistakes by rehearsing every possible outcome before making a move. And while that may seem like a form of intelligence, what it really is, most of the time, is an addiction to control. You see, when we overthink, we try to control outcomes with information. We believe that if we just think a little harder, plan a little more, or imagine every single possibility, we'll be able to avoid failure, embarrassment, or pain. But that's a lie, because life doesn't reward the person who thinks the most. It rewards the person who acts with clarity, the person who trusts themselves enough to move without having every detail worked out. So many people are stuck in analysis paralysis. They read the books, watch the videos, consult the experts, journal every scenario, and yet they still don't move. Why? Because overthinking has become a comfort zone. It gives the illusion of progress without the risk of failure. It's the mind's way of feeling productive while actually doing nothing. But you and I both know that nothing changes without movement. You can't think your way into a new life. You have to act your way into it. Let's get clear. Habits are built through repetition and emotional reinforcement. If you've been overthinking for years, it's not because you're broken. It's because you've repeated the behavior so many times that your brain has carved deep grooves, neural pathways that now fire automatically. But the brain is plastic. It can change. And your job is to interrupt that pattern and replace it with something better. Every time you feel yourself spiraling into doubt, pause, breathe, and act. Not think, act. That tiny interruption is how rewiring begins. It doesn't have to be a huge action. It can be sending the message, making the call, starting the task. Once you move even just a little, you break the spell of rumination. You create momentum. And momentum is more powerful than any thought loop you're stuck in. Now here's where it gets deeper. Most overthinking is rooted in a subconscious belief that I'm not enough. That's why the mind tries so hard to compensate. It wants to be perfect. It wants to avoid mistakes. It wants to know everything before committing, because it's afraid that if you fail, it proves that you weren't enough to begin with. So you sit and overthink to protect the ego from shame. But you're not your shame. You're not your fear. You're not your thoughts. You are the one observing the thoughts, the thinker, the decider, the one who can change direction at any moment. You have to start catching yourself in the act of overthinking. Awareness is everything. The moment you become aware that you're looping, you're no longer fully inside the loop. You've stepped outside enough to notice it. And that's power. From that position, you can decide, is this useful? Is this leading to a decision? Or am I just spinning my wheels again? If it's not productive, it's a cue to pivot. Stand up, change your state, move your body, change your environment, do something. Because thought without movement is like trying to row a boat on land. You're working hard, but you're going nowhere. Repetition builds habit, but emotion cements it. The reason overthinking sticks so strongly is because it's charged with emotion, usually fear, doubt, or shame. So to replace it, you need to link strong positive emotion to decisive action. Celebrate when you act without overthinking. Even if the outcome isn't perfect, reward yourself mentally. Say, that's like me. That's who I am now. Build a new identity around being decisive, action-driven, and calm in uncertainty. Because that's all overthinking really is, a discomfort with uncertainty. And life, my friend, is nothing but uncertain. The people who rise are not the ones who eliminate uncertainty. They're the ones who learn to function inside it. It's important to understand that the habit of overthinking is usually triggered by specific circumstances. Some people overthink relationships. Others overthink money. Others overthink their appearance or their career moves. These triggers reveal your deepest insecurities. Instead of fearing them, study them. What do you consistently overthink? When do those spirals usually happen? What emotions come up in those moments? This self-awareness will help you disarm the habit. You'll see that it's not all of you. It's a specific part of you reacting in specific situations. And when you see the pattern clearly, you create space to choose a different one. Changing this habit is not about suppressing your thoughts. It's not about forcing yourself to stop thinking. That never works. The mind hates force. Instead, it responds to redirection. When you catch yourself spiraling, don't say, stop thinking. Instead, say, I'm going to think forward. Think forward, not backward. Don't replay past failures. Don't analyze past conversations. Don't obsess over what if. Think forward. What's the next step? What's one decision I can make right now? How can I act in alignment with the future I want, not the fear I'm trying to avoid? And make no mistake, this is a discipline. It won't happen in one day. Just like it took repetition to build the overthinking habit, it will take repetition to replace it. But every time you interrupt the pattern and make a different choice, you're weakening the old pathway and strengthening the new one. It's like training a muscle. At first, it's uncomfortable. Your mind will resist. It'll pull you back into familiar loops. But if you stay aware, stay consistent, and keep choosing action over analysis, you'll start to notice a shift. You'll think less and do more. You'll second guess less and trust more. You'll realize that the fear you once obeyed was nothing but a shadow, and the light of decision dissolves it. What you feed will grow. If you feed the overthinking with your time and attention, it becomes stronger. But if you feed decisiveness, presence, and trust, those will grow instead. And eventually, those will become your new habit. Not because you forced them, but because you replaced the old ones with intention and discipline. You are not your patterns. You are the one who creates them, and you are the one who can change them. The quickest way to stop overthinking is to move, not physically but mentally, from thought to decision. This shift is everything. It's the difference between being stuck and being free, between spiraling in endless questions and stepping forward with clarity. Most people misunderstand what overthinking really is. They assume it's the result of a busy life or a high-pressure situation, but it's not. Overthinking is a refusal to choose. It's not caused by too many thoughts. It's caused by too few decisions. Because when you make a real decision, the overthinking stops immediately. Not because the external situation changed, but because your mind changed. It finally received a command. And the mind, no matter how chaotic it seems, obeys clarity. Decision cuts through the noise. It silences the unnecessary. It gives your energy a direction. You see, your mind is always looking for one thing, certainty. And when it doesn't get that certainty from a decision, it starts scanning. It starts looping, questioning, comparing, worrying. It's trying to solve the problem without taking action. But it can't, because the kind of clarity you're looking for doesn't come before the decision. It comes after. That's the paradox. You don't wait for clarity to decide, you decide, and that's how clarity shows up. Most people are sitting on the sidelines of their own life, thinking themselves into exhaustion, hoping that if they just wait long enough, the perfect moment will reveal itself. It won't. Life doesn't reward hesitation, it rewards movement. But not just physical movement, mental movement. The moment you go from, what should I do, to, this is what I will do, you unlock your power. That is the real moment of transformation, the moment you decide. People don't stay stuck because they don't know what to do. They stay stuck because they're afraid to choose. They fear making the wrong move. They fear regret. They fear judgment. But in that fear, they lose the one thing they absolutely need: forward momentum. Let's get this clear. Indecision is a decision. It's a decision to delay, to freeze, to avoid. And it has consequences. Every day you don't choose is a day you fall deeper into mental clutter. The weight of unmade decisions accumulates. And before long, your mind becomes a battlefield, filled with unfinished thoughts, unspoken truths, half-baked plans, and fears wearing the mask of logic. You start doubting yourself, not because you're weak, but because you've trained your brain to question instead of act. There's power in a made-up mind. When you choose something, you stop entertaining everything else. That mental focus becomes your fuel. It clears away distractions. It silences what-ifs. It centers you. Think about the last time you finally made a decision after agonizing for days or weeks. Do you remember the relief that followed? That wasn't because the problem disappeared. It's because the uncertainty did. And uncertainty, not the problem itself, is what drains your energy. The more options you try to hold in your mind, the more overloaded you feel. Choice overload isn't a sign of complexity, it's a sign of confusion. But clarity doesn't come from thinking about the options longer. It comes from owning one of them. You commit. You act. That's how clarity begins to form. You can tell the moment someone decides. Their energy changes, their posture shifts, their words become more certain. It's like watching fog lift. That's the power of decision. It's not just a mental event, it's an energetic reset. And that's what makes it the quickest way to stop overthinking. It interrupts the loop. When your brain is spiraling, give it a command. Decide. Even if it's something small. I'm going to send the email. I'm going to make the call. I'm going to write the first line. Small, clear. Now, that's how you train your brain to move instead of ruminate. Let's take a deeper look. Overthinking thrives in the space between thought and action. It lives in the gap. The longer you sit in that gap, the more power overthinking gains. So the key is to close the gap quickly. Don't give the mind space to spiral. Give it direction. People think that not making a decision keeps them safe. But the truth is, indecision is the most dangerous place to live. It's where doubt grows. It's where self-trust erodes. It's where dreams go to die. Not because they're impossible, but because they were never chosen. And here's what you must understand: success, in any form, is not built on perfect choices. It's built on committed choices. What moves you forward isn't that you picked the ideal path. It's that you picked a path and gave it your all. Because movement creates information. Action teaches. But thought without decision only creates more thought. It's like trying to read the map without ever taking the first step. You can't see the terrain from the starting point. You've got to move to see more. Now, let's talk about responsibility. When you don't decide, you hand over your power to circumstances. You say, I'll wait and see. You say, I'm not sure yet. You wait for signs. You wait for confirmation. But what if the sign is the discomfort you feel? What if that tension is life's way of saying, choose already? You see, a decision is a declaration. It says, I'm in charge here. I'll find out what works by doing. And that's what separates people who grow from people who stay stuck. It's not intelligence. It's not talent. It's willingness to decide, especially when it's uncomfortable. You have to retrain your brain to link pleasure with decision and pain with indecision. Right now, your brain likely believes that deciding is risky and not deciding is safe. But that belief is what's keeping you stuck. Start showing your brain the truth. That real safety comes from progress. That real confidence comes from commitment. When you make a decision, even if it's hard, even if it's scary, you become stronger. You build trust in yourself. You say, I can handle this. I can figure it out. And that trust becomes the foundation of unstoppable momentum. Here's another secret. When you delay decisions, you invite others to decide for you. Your boss decides, your partner decides, society decides. And over time, you lose touch with your own intuition. You stop hearing your inner voice. But that voice doesn't disappear. It just gets buried under layers of fear and hesitation. The quickest way to reconnect with it: decide something, anything. Show yourself that you're still the driver, not the passenger. And as you practice deciding faster, with more confidence, your mind becomes sharper. You spend less time in the loop and more time in life. You stop trying to figure everything out, and instead you start experiencing things directly. You learn by living, not just by thinking. Think of it like this: every decision you don't make is a door you don't open. Behind that door is a lesson, a connection, a breakthrough. But you'll never know unless you walk through. And yes, some doors will lead to failure. Some choices will bring challenges. But that's the price of growth. And it's worth it, because every step you take gives you feedback. Every move teaches you something new. But standing still, that teaches you nothing. So how do you make decisions faster? First, get clear on what matters to you. What's your real goal? What outcome are you aiming for? When you're anchored in your purpose, it's easier to cut through distractions. Second, set time limits on your thinking. Don't give yourself endless hours or days to make a choice. Give yourself a window. I'll decide before bed. Deadlines create urgency. Urgency leads to action. And third, trust that you can adapt. No decision is final. You can adjust. You can course correct. You can pivot. But you can't grow if you don't move. And movement begins the moment you choose. Remember, hesitation is the enemy of progress. And the antidote isn't more thought, it's more decision. Decide to act. Decide to commit. Decide to trust, not later. Now, that's how you train your mind to stop overthinking, by moving it from thought into decision again and again, until that becomes your new pattern.